Gerrard all day.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Rangers Journal. My name's Scotty, and I'm delighted to be joined by Ryan. You all know Ryan, and we've also got a special guest on to speak about Steven Gerrard and his time at Al Ettifaq. Joined by Will Jabir. Will, how are you?
I'm very good, yeah. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for coming on. It's appreciated. Ryan, how are you, mate?
I'm doing okay, bud. Doing not too bad. Sunday night, so where we are, we're at time of recording, so obviously starting to get the dreads in, waiting for Heartbeat to come on the telly and all this kind of stuff. back to work tomorrow.
I know. So we'll just get right into it. Sum up for me Steven Gerrard's time in Saudi.
I would say it was a mixed bag. I think his biggest impact has been off the pitch. He took over a team, just for context, Ettifaq are a historic club in Saudi, but not a club that's been doing well in recent years. They spent quite a few seasons in lower divisions and have come back just a few seasons ago. Their best years were mid 80s. They were Saudi Arabia's original invincibles. They won the league without a defeat in '83, and they won it again in '87. But since then, have just suffered. Spent quite a lot of times in the first and second divisions. So that's the context within which that he's come back as part of. Gerrard took over Ettifaq as part of the summer revolution, if you'd say, when quite a few big names have arrived in the country. And Ettifaq were not one of the big clubs that have taken most of the top names. And this is where I see Gerrard's biggest impact has been. So since he joined Ettifaq, they've been able to attract quite a lot of big names off the back of having Gerrard. So obviously starting with Jordan Henderson, Gini Wijnaldum, the likes of even Demarai Gray, Moussa Dembele, are not the type of names, Jack Hendry as well. So those are not the type of names that would have typically signed for a club the size of Ettifaq. And for quite a few of those names, the presence of Gerrard has been critical to their recruitment. So this is where I would say is one of the biggest successes of Gerrard at the club. Obviously, since then Henderson's left, but all of the others are still there. Wijnaldum in particular has grown to be the club captain, took over the captain's armband after Henderson's left, and it's had a huge impact. He's the club's top scorer last season and this season as well. So in that sense, I think Gerrard's presence has been transformative for the club. Then moving on from recruitment to his second point of greatest impact is transforming the infrastructure and the setup of the club. So one of the main tasks that Gerrard had at the club was to try to bring it to the standard of clubs where he's worked in the past. So with the infrastructure, for a lot of the teams in Saudi, the standards of training, the standards of the facilities are not up to global standards, not for lack of resources, but rather for lack of knowledge of the game and what's required to compete at the top level. So in that sense, I think he's done quite a lot to professionalize the club, to bring it to somewhat the standards that professionals of the such as the names that he's brought in expect to be working on. That's very much the positives. On the pitch, the first half season was very decent. They won their first few games. They were competing at the top end of the table. That's again a club that's historically suffered quite a lot of relegation and promotion, but they were very much in the top five all the way until the first half of the first season, and then things started to go wrong. An injury to Moussa Dembele hasn't helped. He was quite reliant on Dembele for goals, and once he got injured, the result didn't go the way Ettifaq fans would have liked. And from then on, honestly, quite a lot of problems continued to happen. Question marks started to arise about his commitment to the club. Quite a lot of conversations about him living in Bahrain rather than in Saudi. And for context, Bahrain is just 45 minutes away from Dammam, where Ettifaq are based. However, it is a different country. So that obviously is not a good look for the managers to be living in a different country. And I'm sure he's had his reasons. Bahrain, for context, is quite a lot more liberal compared to Saudi. So for someone obviously coming from from an English background, the culture would be different for him, for his family. So that's the reason. But nevertheless, it was seen by the fans as a lack of commitment to the cause of the club, and that hasn't helped him obviously for the second season. And once the results started going downhill from there, uh, the club actually issued a statement backing the manager, but we all know this is very rarely a positive sign. And then they doubled down on that by recruiting Michael Beale to join him. Obviously, lots of you Rangers fans know him very well. But surprisingly, just weeks after Beale joined, Gerrard was sacked, and surprisingly, more immediately after his departure, they appointed Saad al-Shehri, who's a local coach who's come through Ittifaq, who spent quite a lot of time at the club as a player, then as a coach for the under 16s, under 18s, then took over the Saudi national team under 23. But since his appointment, the club have been on a fantastic run of form. Obviously, still due to the poor results at the start of the season, they now find themselves seventh in the league. But that's off the back of being in the relegation zone earlier in the season. So that very much sums up Gerrard's time at Ettifaq, if I may say.
Yeah.
Ryan, you want to make a question?
I will just we experienced similar circumstances with Gerrard, and the fact that his family still stayed in Liverpool, whilst obviously he moved to Glasgow, and he was commuting quite regularly back and forth between Liverpool and Glasgow. His kids still went to school in Liverpool. His wife still stayed in Liverpool. Do you know if his family actually came out to Bahrain with him, or did they actually stay in England?
They did come to Bahrain, and he is actually still quite invested in Bahrain. He set up a branch of the Steven Gerrard academies there, and he continued to actually oversee that even after he was sacked from Ettifaq. He was seeing quite regularly in Bahrain.
Yeah, one of our, I don't know if this is a question you can answer, but one of our kind of fellow podders is adamant that he's not able to come back to the UK until November. Pretty much, if he does come back to the UK, he's going to get hit with quite a large income tax bill if he comes here. I don't know if you would know anything about that, but is he still basically in Bahrain because he can't come back to the UK for tax purposes?
It is something that we've seen with other players who've moved over to Saudi from the Premier League, most notably Jordan Henderson, and hence his move to Ajax instead of going back to England. However, I'm not very familiar with the specifics of that, but there definitely is an impact from a tax perspective if he's to return to the UK.
Sure. Scotty? You're on mute, mate.
See, in terms of player development, obviously, when Steven Gerrard went out, as you say, it was a revolution that summer for Saudi football. Did he help bring the standards up with the players? Did he help improve any of the players that were already there?
Absolutely, yes. I think that's something he's definitely contributed positively to. Quite a lot of players at Ettifaq spoke highly of him, of his impact, about improving the standards of training, improving the way they understand the game, and we've seen quite a few players come through Ettifaq, start playing with the first team more regularly, and getting called up for the national team. So actually, recently, which also kind of worked against him eventually, because some of the young talents that he helped bring through Ettifaq were actually picked up by bigger, richer clubs, such as Etihad in the summer. So after his first season, and that obviously weakened his team. So just shows that he did have an impact on those youngsters and positively influenced their careers, but ultimately to the detriment of the club he managed at Ettifaq.
Sure. How was his style of play when he was out there? When he was with us, he very much played a 4-3-3 formation, and it was quite attacking. and quite kind of fast and free flowing. Is he still playing a similar kind of style of football out there?
It is similar in the sense that it was a 4-3-3. He relied heavily on Jack Hendry to bring the ball from the back, and when he wasn't around, that impacted his. He suffered some injuries, so when he was injured, that impacted his playing style a bit. However, I wouldn't say it was free flowing. A lot of their play depended on finding Moussa Dembele up front, and he would bring the ball down, and they would have fast wingers. So they had Demarai Gray on the left and Carl Toko Ekambi, Cameroonian winger on the right. And yeah, and midfield three was at the start it was Henderson, Wijnaldum, and a rotation for the third spot. He brought in Seko Fofana, used to play for Lens. He joined Al Nassr and then joined Ettifaq on loan. So it was quite physical, a lot of crosses, a lot of goals from set pieces, but very much a well-structured 4-3-3.
See, in terms of Al Ettifaq's club expectations, I'm just trying to gauge a better picture of what I think the expectations would have been on Steven Gerrard now. Since the revolution that summer, where there was millions and billions of pounds spent buying players over from different markets in terms of Saudi football, what was the kind of the goal for Gerrard? Was it to compete for league titles? Was it to get into European football? No, not European football, but I think it's a CONCACAF over there, isn't it?
Asian, yeah.
Yeah. So, what was his expectations from the club and the fans?
Yeah, so as I said, Ettifaq are not traditionally one of the top 4 or top 5 in the Saudi league. So that expectation was of competing for the title or going on to play in the AFC Champions League. That was never something that was placed on him. However, the expectation was that he would bring Ettifaq to compete consistently for the top 6, which, to be fair, in his first season, he very much was able to do. They did finish 6, so he met the minimum requirement that was expected of him, and that's why he went into the second season with quite a lot of positivity. Even the difficult patches that he's had in the first season were very largely due to injuries, him not having a decent backup for Moussa Dembele. So he went into the second season with still some positivity. However, one important change that's happened in the league for before his second season was Al Qadisiyah were promoted from the first division, and those are actually Ettifaq's local rivals. And similar to them, they struggled for a number of years, but just a year earlier, they were bought by Saudi Aramco, which is the richest oil company in the world. So they got promoted and they invested heavily. They bringing in the likes of Aubameyang, the likes of Nacho from Real Madrid. So suddenly, there was a new rival in town, and that didn't make it easy for him in his second season. So automatically, by default, everyone knew the top 4 would be the top 4. Qadisiyah would take that 5th place spot. They're actually now 4th in the league. So automatically, the expectation was that he might go a place or 2 down, but the poor start of the season combined with maybe some sort of elevated expectations at the same time, where they said, okay, he's had a season, he has Qadisiyah come in, but he's finished 6th last season. Can we finish 6th again this season? Then when results went badly, I think there wasn't enough patience, and honestly, patience is not traditionally a virtue that exists in football, but particularly in Saudi football.
Do you think that was the reason why he was sacked? It was reported in the UK that he left by mutual consent, that both parties agreed that it wasn't working anymore. But is the official in Saudi that he was sacked, he was relieved of his duties?
It's a bit tricky. So for context, when Jordan Henderson left Ettifaq after 6 months, there was a lot of talk. There was a lot of negative talk around the club, saying that their project is is falling apart, and this the administration of the club decided to renew Gerrard's contract up until 2027, and that was very much, to say that no, we are committed to the project. Yes, one player is left, but the leader of this project is Gerrard rather than Henderson, and we're backing him. So in that sense, he went into the second season with still 2 more years into his in his contract. Uh, but then when things started to go negatively, there was a lot of pressure from the fans. But within the club, I think the board and the CEO, all of them, still thought Gerrard was the right man, and that was regardless of results. So I think from a club perspective, the idea was that he can continue to improve the club even if results didn't immediately work for them. And I think this was part of the logic why they decided to bring in Michael Beale so that Gerrard can continue to be the face of the club, continue to be the face of the project, continues to improve different areas of the club, and Beale would support by helping improve results on the pitch. That obviously hasn't worked out. They had to reach some sort of formula, I guess, by which his departure would be announced. They would appease the fans, but it also doesn't look like he's failed at his job, which, to be fair, would be a harsh description if we were to say Gerrard has failed. I don't think he's failed at his time at Ittifaq.
I know I keep getting back to this, Will, but see the level in Saudi, the level of football. Obviously, it's full of superstars. Is it? Would you say that it's a hard job if you're Steven Gerrard to get Al Ettifaq into the top 6 over there, considering the resources that Steven Gerrard had compared to other clubs?
Yes, I know you would look at it from the outside and say, oh, he's had some big names, some names that are very well known in Scottish and European football. But in comparison to the top teams, for reference, you had Al Hilal, who's won the league that season. Their team, and obviously the likes of Ruben Neves, Mitrovic, Neymar, quite a lot of big names, Koulibaly. Then, you have Nasser with Ronaldo and Sadio Mane, etc. So they finished second. Then you have Al Ahly with Riyad Mahrez, Firmino, etc. So in comparison, Ettifaq would very much sit between 5th and 6th in terms of how strong their squad is, in terms of their collection of international players. However, what I would say is in terms of local players, the quality of local players they have was not up to the standard of the top 4.
Right.
So within that context, I think 5th, 6th, 7th place finish would be what was expected of Ettifaq. So obviously he's not overachieved, but equally he's not underachieved.
Yeah. It's just there's a bit of a stigma over here that he's done a terrible job. He's failed in Saudi. That seems to be, well, within a Rangers support. I don't know what Ryan thinks, but to me, within a Rangers support, it comes across as if, why should we take him back when he's not done a good job in Saudi? It doesn't sound as if he has done a bad job, though.
No, I wouldn't say so. Definitely towards the end, honestly, there was quite a lot of frustration. You'll find that I myself, honestly, was one of his critics in his last few months of the job. However, when you take a step back, you come out of it and you look at the bigger picture. Obviously, it hasn't helped as well that the new manager is coming and results have immediately bounced up. It does emphasize that perspective that well, look at the difference now. But again, we always know, with a new manager, there's always that new manager bounce. Whether that continues remains to be seen next season. But I think definitely looking at the bigger picture, I think he's done an all right job, and I think also when you take into consideration the amount of adapting he's had to do with Saudi football, it's a completely different place and playing culture and training culture and all of that. Obviously, with the weather being so hot, we do not have training sessions during the day in Saudi. All training sessions happen at 9 or 10 p.m. Just because it's too hot for players to train during the day. So obviously it's quite different to playing in the UK. matches as well. Very much all of the kickoffs are either at 7 or 9 p.m. So that takes a bit of adapting to. Obviously, the culture of the Saudi players. Yes, he's had quite a few players come over from Europe who could be very much adapted to his ways. But then the Saudi players, for the local players, of course, what he's brought on is something that's completely new to them. And I remember actually in the first few weeks of his arrival, there were actually clips of the players collapsing in training because of how intense his training was. So that's obviously something that takes a bit of adapting to. And traditionally, we've not had that many English or in general British managers in the Saudi league. If you look around, it was mostly Spanish, Portuguese, Brazilians, Argentinians, where the culture is not that different compared to a British manager.
I'm finished, Scotty. That's all the questions I had. So appreciate your time, Will. Thank you.
No problem at all. I hope I've been helpful. And
no, definitely. Thanks for that.
And best of luck for Rangers.
Thank you for coming on. It's as appreciated. Do you want to tell folk where they can find you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at WildJabir, just as you can see my name, just one word. And yeah, I'll be tweeting a lot about Saudi football.
Oh, perfect. Thank you for coming on again. And that's another episode done, guys. We'll see you soon. Cheers.
Thank you.